My name is Stanislav Kulov. I'm head of Department of International Law and Cooperation. I'm also a practicing lawyer in Moscow, Russia. We mostly doing cases about religious freedom and freedom of conscience, but also we have some litigation in different areas of law. So Slavic Legal Center or Slavic Center for Law and Justice is an organization, law office and NGO. We have both of them, which were founded more than 20 years ago with a mission to defend individuals and religious organizations and their rights and freedoms in Russia. We participate in cases on different levels in our court system. We also participate in cases in higher courts of Russia, such as Supreme Court and Constitutional Court. And also, you know that much of our cooperation with you is about the European Court of Human Rights. Yes, of course, this situation, we have constitutional provisions. We have now a freedom of conscience law, which regulate the religious life in Russia. And of course, the situation has changed a lot from the Soviet times, but we still have some problems. For example, last 2 years we have many challenges with the new provisions, new amendments which force in power in 2016 concerning the missionary activity. We now have a definition of such activity, and some experts are not supporting that because this is very difficult to distinguish the freedom of dissemination of your religious views and the missionary activity itself. This is actually the same. For many Russian citizens, especially European Court of Human Rights is a very important instrument for defending their freedoms and rights, as well as for other European countries which are the part of the convention. And of course, this is the participation on each level or in international documents or international organizations. It's the sign of the openness and the sign of the modernity of the state. Denunciation of convention will drive Russia back in all levels. So I think that politicians must really think about that from both sides. For now, European Court of Human Rights is the most effective international mechanism for Russian citizens to defend their rights. Of course, it will negative impact on not only the rights of individual, but all legal system of Russia. And also we have very respectful opinions from the Russian Bar Association of lawyers. They said that it will very negative for Russia, not only in political way, but in legal part of. We also have some human rights defenders which consider that it will be wrong step for Russia. So let us hope that politicians can find ways and can give some consensus in this question. I partly support the decision, partly support the state. Because why, I will explain. I think in such a traditional society as Russia society is, we need to consider with the values which for Russians are morality, spirituality and tradition, culture, and the huge and important influence of Russian Orthodox Church for all the institutions in Russia. Of course, we are not regret this. But we need to consider with all these opinions, all these contexts, while we are thinking about the freedom of expression. I will say that any freedom has a border, and so the difficulty is, where is the border? Where is this border? And for court, of course, it was one of the difficult questions to find a balance between a freedom of expression and freedom of religion of others. Yes, so in our reality, where traditional foundations and traditional institutions are fighting for the existence with tolerance and equality for all the people, which is very difficult to build, we need to consider with majority too, because we came to the situation when we much more respect minorities than majority. And it's difficult, but I think that European Court of Human Rights can build the practice this way, that the last cases, some last cases of European Court of Human Rights in freedom of expression field is wondering sometimes, because we have different logic in some very similar cases, but for example, maybe another confession or this denomination can be involved. So it's interesting why it's so. That's why I think in a particular case of Pussy Riot and Maria Lokhina with others, I think that court should give much more respect to the traditional values. When I attend Strasbourg and communicate with different persons here, as well as, for example, Russian Orthodox representatives and some lawyers and judges, I understand that Europe now have some value crisis, and we feel some kind of similar problems, because Russia now is very, as well as state Russia, I mean, as official Russia, stand for the values and proclaim that the fight for traditional values is one of the biggest issue in our policy. And I think that we can unite, and in this may be common ground, because we are trying to find common ground with all other world, We're trying to find something with countries, and I think that we must more think about what we can do together, and not to fight to each other, not trying to create obstacles to each other. So because we can lose the humanity if we will continue to do it. We must defend the spirituality, we must defend the traditional values, we must defend the freedoms and fundamental freedoms and rights. And this is our joint work. This is our joint future.